I really hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe, like, and click the bell to be notified of more fantastic music content just like this. Welcome to the Need to Know Music Show with me, Ronan McManus. Today's guest is an award-winning songwriter, producer, and multi-instrumentalist. If you don't know him by name, you'll certainly know him by some of the songs he's worked on for such stars as Kelly Clarkson, Madonna, Pink, Weezer, the list goes on. I'm delighted to welcome Jimmy Harry. How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
Yes, I'm good. Yeah, you're just saying there's time difference here. I'm in the evening, you're in the morning. So hopefully, have you had some coffee?
I'm having coffee right now. Can't live without coffee.
So how's this crazy year been for you?
I think it's been interesting and challenging. It hasn't been, an utter disaster. It's been like there's been some great parts about it, but like more than anything, I just worry about friends who are unemployed, can't play shows, people can't play concerts, they're not making TV shows or movies, which is a huge deal in LA, so it's sad, but hopefully we'll get through it, especially if Donald Trump loses the election in the fall. That'll be a giant help. But yeah, no, it's good. I mean, it's been really the great thing about it, which I love, is sort of like, been doing some sessions on Zoom, which means that you're sort of like, your locality gets erased. So I can do, sessions with people in, Europe and Asia, and, it just kind of like has erased all those, traveling to have to go do work. I'm used to spending about two months of the year in Europe, so that's been kind of crazy for me. I haven't been to Europe since last November, which is.
That was one of the things I was going to ask you about. Is this, what you do is sort of with the behind the scenes nature of it. Surely lockdown has kind of been a place where people maybe are looking to write, looking to record, looking to work on their songs and things. And have you found that that's been something that you've sort of been just as busy at, or how has that affected that kind of thing?
It's been, like the process is so much slower, with doing everything over Zoom, because it's easier to deal with people in real time with music, so of
course
trying to write a song with somebody when there's, like even a second delay, or half a second delay, it can be interesting. I mean, I was doing this session with this writer in England maybe like a few weeks ago, and we were like playing and singing at the same time. I said, we must not have much delay, this is amazing. But it was really just like the perfect amount of delay for her to be like a beat behind where the tempo of the song was. So like she was singing what I was hearing, she was in a different place than I thought she was. And then we reconciled it all. We used some of hers and some of mine, but it was like, it's a challenge, so you don't have that sort of instant communication. But I do, I like the fact that it sort of forces everybody to slow down a lot, so instead of kind of like everybody, especially in LA, we're just so hacky and people are doing like 3 sessions a day or whatever. And, it's like now, you kind of have to take a little bit more time on an idea, and just kind of getting an idea you like and it's working and functioning is such a big deal, where it slows down the process, makes it see a little bit more time to think. It's a little bit more old school in the way where you sort of have to like rewind a tape machine to go back and record another take and all that stuff. And it's it's like kind of Back to the Future.
So you're kind of that sort of bouncing off them. You're sort of literally waiting for the signal to come back to you, and once you bounce an idea off somebody,
you don't really know what's going. So like I have to like record a little bit of a track and then email that to them, and I can stream like what I'm working on to them, but then they have to record it over there and send it back to me, and then I have to figure out where the hell it's going and put it in, and then I have to make my notes and try to explain it to them, I'm like, so it's definitely like, it's a much more complicated process than you think it would be, but and time consuming. It slows it down,
Yeah, yeah. Well, so is that kind of, are you, for those that don't sort of know the process of what you do, and kind of what that is, so you're working with songwriters, with artists, and you're just basically, are you collaborating on writing most of the time, or do you just write your own songs for your own thing? How does that work? What do you do mainly?
I think like I do everything. I mean, it just changes with what the season is, like I've written songs and produced songs for people by myself, and then the artist just comes in and does them. I've co-written with artists. I've, just come in late and produced a record without doing any writing. I've written with songwriters, and then, an artist likes the song and puts in their 2 cents. I've just written with songwriters, and sometimes those songs get cut. It's any way you can imagine it, like it's happened. And I have an artist project. I have, it's sort of started out as just like a hobby project, but I'm doing a deal with Armada, so there'll be some new music on that. Then, the next few months, and I've been writing a musical as well, during this, like I started before the COVID thing hit, but a lot of the development in it happened, kind of once the virus set in. So that's been kind of interesting.
Gave you some time to kind of work on your own thing as well, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had started before and wanted to do it. It's something like I was sort of, before I started, I got accidentally into the world of, songwriting and producing. I was like, like kind of doing a lot of avant-garde theater and, installations and art stuff in New York, and thought that was going to be my career path. So kind of had an accident and sort of changed everything. And, was trying to get back to that a little bit, actually.
Yeah, I was going to go back to to ask you about kind of how you started out, and where you grew up and how you got into, and how that path brought you to sort of winning a Golden Globe for co-writing with Madonna, and it's kind of like, so where did it all start for you?
I mean, I started kind of like, I think a lot of other people did. I started off playing in a punk rock band, when I was in like, junior high school, and, that was sort of fun. And I, like I started getting into electronic music a bit, and that was always, I was still a huge Brian Eno fan, but, I loved, all the stuff he was doing, and Kraftwerk and all that sort of things I found really interesting. And I kind of played in some bands, and I grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, which is in the middle of nowhere, and just started, kind of, I got involved with, doing kind of, like music for theater and sonic installations in museums. And it was just, that was sort of fun. It was great to be able to do those sorts of things. And I moved to New York to kind of continue that on. And I had gone to Atlanta to direct a play with and I cast RuPaul in it. RuPaul.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So, we became friends. And when he left New York, but he came back, and I ran into him on the street one day, and he was like, "Jimmy, I'm ready. I want to do a song with you." And I'm like, "You need to be in my new play, please." And this went on for like literally 3 weeks. And he was, "No, I don't want to be in your play. I'm ready. Let's do a song." I'm like, "Please, come on, just do my play." And this went on, and then finally, me being the sucker that I'm always in, I caved. And we did a song, and it was it was fun. It was really, fun. And I did some more, but there was something special about it. We ended up getting a deal, like after doing 3 songs with Tommy Boy Records, and you know, that kind of evolved into, you know, Supermodel being, you know, probably not the biggest, you know, top 40 hit, but a huge cultural hit in America. You know, it was everywhere. It was #1 MTV song. And that all of a sudden I was like a songwriter producer dude, you know, and I didn't know what I was doing. I like was, you know, like I was like kind of like in a totally, and it was like, okay, cool. You know, so like, you know, pretty soon, you know, after that, I did that Kylie Minogue "Put Yourself in My Place" song,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it just kept on going until it kind of stopped because I really didn't know what I was doing. And I was like, okay, great. Well, now I've always wanted to score movies, and so like I'm gonna move to LA, gonna score some films, and you know, like transition into that. That was like around, God, it was 20 years. Was it 20 years ago? It was like 2000. Yeah, it was like 2001. I think I moved. And I then you know, I got a really great agent. I got like, you know, got a cool movie, and I hated it. And all of a sudden I just like, you know, it was like you think everything was going on in New York, but it was really going on in LA. So I was like turning down all these like great, like, you know, writing, you know, sessions and everything to do this movie, which was ended up being a cool movie. But you know, it's at least a big cult movie. It was Party Monster, with Macaulay
Okay.
Culkin and Chloe Sevigny.
Oh
And
yeah.
you know, it was but it was just like brutal. I was really unhappy with it, so I just started kind of kicking into the songwriting producing thing, and that led to like, you know, sort of everything else, you know.
Yeah, it sort of grew into the label. You had to got given the songwriter producer label before you really know, before you really identified as that. And you kind
Yeah,
of
I wasn't
grew
really
into it.
comfortable. I mean, I wasn't that into pop music, you know, to be honest. It was just sort of like, um, you know, so
You obviously have a talent for it, though, in fairness, judging by
yeah. I
the
mean, I think, you know, like you know, I love making any kind of music. I'm not like, I'm just, you know, any opportunity to do something where like, you know, people are going to listen to it, it's like amazing, you know, and it's a real, like, it's a lucky thing to have happen to you, I feel like.
yeah. So what was working with Weezer? Was that was sort of going back to sort of the guitar rock kind of roots a bit? Was working with those guys? I mean, how did
I
that
think, well, it
come
was just
about?
really, it was me, Rivers, and Tony Cannell, who was the bass player for No Doubt, who I was working with quite a bit at the time. And
Okay.
you know, I think, you know, like I never met the other guys in the band. I just kind of, Rivers came over and wrote a song. So kind of, we wrote a song. We are trying to like do Weezer meets ZZ Top, you know, kind of vibe to it.
Wheezy
And
Top.
ZZ Top, that's good.
Wheezy.
And then he just called, you know, called us up one day and said, "Hey, you want to come over to the studio?" And I'm working on the song, and I was like, "Yeah." So I played some keyboards and played some guitar on it. And, you know, it was super casual, so that was like sort of fun.
That's cool. Yeah. So the Madonna collaboration, and that was she got a Golden Globe for that. How did that all come about?
That was like, you know, it started off with a track I had, you know, started but not finished with Julie Frost, my co-writer, and uh, for she had a, you know, like everybody really liked this song, but it wasn't quite. We were still like kind of locked into that sort of, you know, TikTok, Katy Perry, like, you know, everything was really plastic, plastic, plastic song, and this was sort of like an acoustic guitar with a reggaeton beat on it. You know, like, and just a weird song. It would sound totally, you know, the initial thought of it would sound totally modern and fit into what was going on today.
Right.
But it was, you know, it was just sort of a leap for back then for anybody. So, you know, William Orbit heard it and played it for Madonna, and then, you know, she was like, oh my God, I can rewrite this and use it for my movie. And that was sort of like that. And I didn't meet her. I mean, you know, I played all the parts on it and everything, sent over the tracks to William, and he recorded her vocals on it. And they had some live strings. But literally met her on the stage with Golden Globes, which was hilarious. You know, so that's like, that's the modern version of the pop music business. And and she remembered my name, which was kind of awesome. So there you go.
That's good. So what was that experience like, being at the Golden Globes?
It was the party's incredible. It's like they have, like, you know, it's like vintage Moe, like at every corner, all you can drink. And I was like, you know, I was kind of nervous. So like I took a Vicodin and, you know, started drinking, and I was like thoroughly in the bag. You know, and but it was fun, you know, like you're like, you know, I actually went with Julie and John Platt, who is the head of Sony ATV Music right now, the absolute head of it. And John was like, screw the Grammys. This is it, man. This is the whole thing. It was just like, you know, everybody's there. You're like kind of like, you know, like Brad Pitt is coming up to your table. Johnny Depp is blah, blah, blah. It's crazy. You know, it's just like this whole surreal thing. And it's very casual. Everybody's just drinking at the table. And I was like, you know, I was like pretty tipsy. And wasn't like, you know, the the real reason I wanted to go was I wanted to just say hi to Elton John, because I'm a huge Elton John fan, and you know, like, he was a big influence on me. But apparently I didn't know it, but he was having like a little fight with Madonna. You know, they're having like a little media war there, and I was expecting him to win. So that's probably one of the reasons why I like sort of was just drinking and not giving like a fuck about it. But then all of a sudden we ended up winning, and I was like, okay, cool. And it's pretty surrealistic, because you realize how little control you have over everything. You know, it was like literally like a beat I can concoct it in 3 seconds, and a guitar part, and we wrote you know, like my part of it was like, oh, I could have done that in my sleep. I probably did do it in my sleep. And you think when like you get something like that, you know, you think, well, if I work harder and I do this and that, and it's not like that. It's just like, oh, just chuck something out there and you like win by like lottery. And,
so I feel like,
so
if you wrote the gold, you've always felt like maybe you wrote the Golden Globe winning song, there'd be kind of sparkles around you. This moment of magic would happen. You'd know it. Yeah, this is just kind of something that you kind of, it was another day at the office for you. Is that kind of?
Well, I mean, I think it was just this thing where you think it would be more thought out, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
And it also just kind of gave me, you know, like, really, I think I've been like really insecure about everything, because I you know, like I was always felt like a little bit of a fish out of water then, you know, and I was like, oh, this was easy. I can do this. This was like, if I can do this, I'm not gonna like beat myself up anymore about my playing or about my, like, you know, songwriting ability or anything. Screw that. Let's just have fun and go.
I think we're all musicians and songwriters have this kind of like that sort of, you always your own worst critic, and you always maybe think you have that imposter syndrome, they call it, you know, where I've been writing songs since I was a kid, and you just never know the songs that you think, the songs that you put the importance on are never the ones necessarily that people respond to. You just never know, and it can be something. Maybe it's the fact that it was something so natural for you, was maybe the quality that carried it through.
Yeah, it was. I think that's exactly it, and I think it's really, you know, I think in this day of, you know, like, so ample recording, it's really hard to trust your first instincts, you know, because you can always, I mean, I kind of like, I grew into it. It was like a huge period of growth for me, because, you know, you kind of realize that sometimes, like, you just have to accept who you are and what you're doing, and that it's different enough that when you try to, like, you know, improve you're not really giving 100% of you. You know what I mean? If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. I mean, about working with different genres and different musicians, and sort of working different styles. is there still, can you still feel there's an element of yourself in those songs?
I think the ones that have been successful 100%, you know, I'm a, I can't, I don't have a lot of luck doing stuff I don't like, you know? So if I try to, you know, kind of get a certain style, if I'm not feeling what I'm doing, it's just not, you know, I
I
can't
think
change that. So like,
I think
I
that
try to
comes
make
through,
it,
doesn't it?
yeah, I
I
just
think
try
it
to
comes
make it like
through.
so I like it, you know, and
Yeah.
if you know, like lucky enough at this point in my life where I can kind of like accept that, you know, kind of situation and be like, okay, well, you know, if it doesn't work, I like the song, screw everybody else, you know. And you know, like you wanna listen to what people are saying about it. It's not like, you know, sometimes you miss really obvious things, and sometimes like a little, you know, tweak here or there can make huge differences to something. But you know, like you want to like the core, the like real soul of the thing has to be like sort of individual, I feel like, at least for me, and has to feel like me, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to talk about the Kelly Clarkson recording, the song you wrote, "Low," because you're on record of sort of saying you weren't sure where that song was going to be placed to, whether it was a bit dark. The word you used was brutal, and whether it was kind of the lyric was a bit dark for a pop artist.
It
Um,
was like it was the whole song, you know. It was like I was like, it's a really funny story. I was working with this one fairly loony songwriter, this guy Shep, who's kind of a legend because he's just so weird and crazy. And you know, we had written a song, and you know, like we started two starts. And he said, call your publisher and see what he thinks of our songs." I'm like, okay. And my publisher was, you know, like a friend, and so I play him the first song, and he's like, "Oh, that's okay," which means like, yeah.
yeah.
So I play him. Okay, I play him the next one, and he was like, "Yeah, it's okay." And then I said, "Well, fuck, I'm striking out. Let me play you my Sour Grape song." I played him for that. He was like, "That's a smash." I'm like, I was like, "No one's ever gonna do this song." And he was like, "It's a smash." So like being like kind of like you know, like good soul he was, he like didn't really pressure me, but like every 2 weeks he would say, "Have you demoed that song yet?" And I was like, "No, nobody's ever gonna do it." You know, and this was like probably a year after I'd written it, you know, and it was just like, you know, and it was like weird because you know, like it had a lot of odd time signatures in it. You know, it was like not like really, it was like more like, you know, how John Lennon always had those weird little skips. And if that song has
Yeah.
a bar of 7/4, bar of 6/4, it's just kind of uncomfortable, you know, and it, you know, so I was just like, oh, no. And finally it was like, you really should demo the song. So I did it, and I cut it, and then I sort of heard that it was working, but the singer was wrong. And then I recut it again, and it was great, and it was cut within a week of me finishing the demo, oddly enough. It became a single for her, and that was cool, you know.
Yeah, I think I mean, she's got a lot of emotional depth to her. Everyone knows about that. I think, you know, everyone knows that of her. So I think maybe, you know, she could really carry the song. You know, that was a perfect choice, I think. But it's, yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's great, you know.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's you know, it's like one of these things where like, you know, like it just was, I was literally smashed out of my mind because I just had a really bad breakup. I was like, was in New York actually, and was at the Chelsea Hotel, like pounding martinis. And I like woke up the next day in my hotel room, and like the lyrics were on my computer, like all of them just down in a row, you know.
You
And it was just
just
like,
on a stream of consciousness, kind of
yes,
just.
yeah. I was just like, I don't even remember writing them. It was just like there, like literally no changes to it, and that was kind of like, okay, cool, whatever.
Some of the computer keys are broken where you've just gone da, da, da.
Probably, I don't. Yeah, like I don't think I was. I don't think. I don't know. Like that point, it probably wasn't strong enough to like. I'm just lucky I made it back to my hotel room.
So what during this sort of lockdown period, what have you been working on? Anything that you can sort of let us in on, or anything that's kind of like got plans for you going places?
Yeah, I did which was awesome for me. I did a song with Kate Pearson from the B-52s for her new record, which
wow.
I like a huge B-52s fan. So that was just like kind of like super duper fun. And I'm trying to think what else. Been working a bit with the singer Pia, who's going to be putting out a record, and got the first single finished, so that should be dropping like I think fairly soon. Been working on the musical, which is really fun. We're like, we're
yeah. Can you tell us a bit about that? I'd be interested to hear a bit about that.
I don't really like, it's totally, it's gonna ideally, I mean, I think it will have a lot of life. So we want to do it as an animation, kind of musical animation. It's based
cool.
on a 18th century French picaresque novel, but it's very modern. It's funny. It's, definitely like modern pop music. There's like elements of trap and all sorts of things in it. So it's, doing it with JC Chazé, who was one of the two lead singers of NSYNC, and it's really, I'm super duper excited about it. Can't wait for, the world to hear it. I think it's great. It's some of the best stuff I've done, I feel like. So
how close is that to being done? Do you feel?
It's such a longer process. We have the songs done. We've almost got a first draft of a script, and we're sort of, there's been some people interested early on. We're sort of, seeing where that's going to go, and then we'll try to partner up with some animation company to do it.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the scripts are one of those things that will be sort of, you do the redraft and the redraft and the redraft, and those things one of those things that you could kind of drag on, or
I think it's so hard to say with any of these things, like, I mean, like, honestly, I would be just insanely thrilled if it got made, like, I'd be like so psyched about that. But we'll see what happens. Like,
spreading your wings a bit, I suppose, aren't you, into the different world again.
I wrote musicals when I was a kid, so it's not the first time I've done it, but it's been a long time. So, but it's just like, you got to have fun and challenge yourself and do new things, or you get bored. At least I do. So,
do you feel that you've brought some of what else you've done in your career so far back to that kind of almost that first love, and you kind of bring in a bit more of experience to it? I mean,
my God, so much more. Like, I wasn't, when I was doing it before, like, I was like, I think like with musicals, it's like the craft of songwriting. And the one thing about that, like, I'm sure I didn't have it back then. I haven't gone and heard, like, there are probably some good ideas and stuff, but it's, and like having a lot of mastery, like more, just kind of technique to go in and do it. It was like night and day,
Yeah.
And the response to the songs was night and day, because like, like I felt like, people were just like blown away by it in the context of it being in a musical, because sometimes songs from musicals are like dodgy, Some are great, but there's a lot of dodgy songs out there in musicals, which is not something I wanted to do. I wanted to make it like, musically like as great as it could, But it's funny. Yeah. It's funny. It's like, it's basically sort of like, imagine like 18th century South Park, and then you'll have the like, like, that's what it is. We'll see.
That'd be brilliant.
We'll see if anybody really bites on it, and we can get it.
And who would you pick out as people who've really influenced, or you've learned the most from over the years of songwriting, co-writing, producing? Who people that sort of stick out in your mind that you've really kind of felt like you've got something from?
I mean, I think that I feel like I learned something from literally everybody I do a session with, like if even that. I mean, probably the biggest, like influence though, I think what at the end of the day, I wrote with Billy Steinberg for a while, and who is one of an awesome songwriter and one of the most awesome people on planet Earth as well. He's just a sweetheart. He wrote Like a Virgin, I Touch Myself, True Colors, like all these songs. And
Wow.
it was really interesting because his style of writing was very different than anything I'd done before. And he'd start off with like a lyric sheet, and you'd look off at the lyrics and go like, really? And then all of a sudden, like all of a sudden he would steer you around, and you'd end up with this song. And he just had this gift for like being able to like kind of pick stuff out of the air, and not like mostly the way people write is they might have a concept, but they would kind of hum, and then they figure out the words. And Billy went at it a very different way, and it kind of just showed you that like there's lots of ways you can write a song. There's no rules attached to it whatsoever.
Yeah, that's just something that I've yeah, that's definitely there's also there's no right or wrong way. It's just finding the best way. So do you find that you have a process yourself, or do you find that you kind of really trying to draw out something out of the other person? Is it more that sort of thing?
I think like it really just depends on who you're working with, like if like I find like if I'm writing for myself, like just by myself, the thing that's usually works the best for me is like I'll come up with like, kind of a, you know, like I'll just come up with a track of a feeling I want, and then I'll just sort of like top line on top of that till I get something I like. Um, you know, but it just changes with whoever is involved, because like if you have somebody who's really good at doing something, you want to like utilize as their strength. And I'm pretty comfortable working whatever way possible. I'm very flexible that way. So
That's good,
like I just try to figure out what's going to be the best way to get the people who are working with me, make the best use of them as possible, because if like if it was going to be about me, I would just write the song by myself, and maybe have somebody like help me out with some little stuff at the end of it.
It must be the most interesting job to do, because no 2 days are ever the same.
No, they're not. No people are the same. And it's like it's like it's fun. Like, I mean, I just love hanging out with people, and kind of, it's like it's like it can be very intimate, and it's like then you're just let go, and you never see the person ever again in your life. So it's kind of crazy. It's interesting.
But do you ever have sort of detachment issues with some of the songs that you've written the ones you've written, you just solely yourself? I've only ever really heard my song sung by me. I've never heard.
You definitely get demoitis, not so much with me singing, because I'm just like I'm not an awful singer, but I'm awful for singing pop songs. It's like I sort of sound like Bob Dylan or Lou Reed, so that's not going to really lend your, like, if you're trying to write a song for Kelly Clarkson or Pink, it's not usually like the best voice to demo it in, or somebody, so usually I would use somebody else. But yeah, there's songs where, the demo singer is just, you get so married to it that you might have like an A+ singer singing it, and you're just like, no, not the same. But that's it's not the same for the people who hear the singer's version of it. And then there is so much more going on than just a person's voice. It's their personality and culture and everything like that, like you learn to let go of stuff like that, for sure. But there's moments like that. But like I tend to sort of, I've learned, I wasn't always that way, but like I tend to like let go of my songs once they're sort of done, like, because like great things can happen and bad things can happen, and it's just like the one thing I know is I'm just gonna like write another song that'll be good, you know, like at some point, you know. So not all of them are good, most of them suck, but like, you know, something will like hit. So you just have to like, you know, you might not end up liking the artist or the way the artist did the song, you know, or think that the version was like, you know, like maybe I just didn't produce it right, or somebody, if somebody else produced it, they did a bad job. But it's so out of your control, everything. So you just have to kind of let it go and just move on to the next thing, and, you know, enjoy the process, and then like let it go.
And we always ask for a recommendation on the show. So I'd like to ask you for someone that people should check out. Somebody that people need to know. Who would be your recommendation?
Oh my God. You know what? I'm going to throw out this guy who I've worked with, and he just released a new song. Is like, you know, like indie, but like does fairly well. He's on, you can hear him on Spotify or Apple. Lost Boy Crow is just like a really interesting artist, and really like kind of coming into his own. And it's like weird amalgam of like, you know, kind of, you know, classic music with like um you know, modern influences, and, you know, like unusual songwriting style. You know, he's just one of these people, when you write with him, he just riffs and riffs, and he's kind of writing like just going on, you know, sings in the studio until he has a song, and there's not really necessarily like, you know, a super pop music structure to it, but it's super cool and fun. And I heard like I just heard his new song yesterday. I was like, dude, he's onto something.
Excellent. Well, we'll put a link to all this stuff, and links so people can check out all the stuff you've done. But I'd like to say thank you very much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it.
And good luck with everything you're doing, and with the musical. We look forward to seeing that come to fruition at some point.
Cross your fingers. Cross your fingers. We'll see.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Man,
thanks a lot. All right, take care. Thanks. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Now. Bye-bye.